blessed be. I have a reading that I wrote with some, I want to say, regret that I did not have enough time to go over everything I would have liked to have said. So much has happened in 2022. And we have made it through the end of the year. But there are some things that were important to me, and I think need be said as a time of reflection. So as we welcome the new year of 2023, we invoke the presence of Janus, the two-headed god of the Romans. He stands at the door looking both back and forth, a reflection of what was and a vision of what might be. We reminded ourselves that suffering in the cold and the dark does not discriminate, recognizes no political boundaries, and can be relentless. We are reminded that justice delayed is still justice. We are reminded that any one person can inspire a nation for good and for bad. We are reminded of the importance of defining ourselves by what we do, not what we own. We are reminded that a chorus of different voices singing in harmony can affirm the freedom of the oppressed in the world. We are reminded that it is still better to give than receive. We are reminded that the warmth of summer and the cold of winter is something we can all change if there is a will to do so. We are reminded that community in the face of conflict can unite, not divide. And finally, we are reminded that Christmas can be celebrated anywhere, even in candlelight, with the sounds of war not so far away.
There are some things that I'm not great at. One of them is naming sermons. I came up with begin as you intend to go on because I'm here today. And it is my intention to continue to be part of this community that where there's so many people who I love and respect and care about. And I see the potential of what can be here. And I'm really thrilled that as many of you are here as are, because that says to me that this is important to you too. And that's a really good thing. And when I started writing this, we had just had a membership committee meeting. You may know that I am a co-chair of membership. At least that's my title. And yeah, I stuck my hand up first last year when Reverend Gordon said, "Hey, we need a membership co-chair, a membership chairman." But honestly, Kim Monette is the true chairman. She's my co-chair, but she's the one who's really taken the ball and run with it on membership. I kind of consider myself more like the number one worker bee in membership. Or maybe the number two worker bee in membership, because Bob over there does a lot of work helping with membership. And maybe I'm only the number 3 worker bee because Betty, who's not here today, has done some really important stuff for the membership committee, like the beginning of the church year or the end of last year. She contacted every single person on our directory and got updated information. And she's the one who puts out the first Sunday lunch bunch, not happening this month, but it'll be back in February, and organizes Circle Suppers. But I figured that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the process of making church. I think some of you wonder, you see all of us, the cadre of people who are worship associates, and we're up here probably once every 5 or 6 weeks. We rotate through. And I wonder if y'all wonder if maybe we do it because we're frustrated ministers. That what we really wanted to do with our life was to go to divinity school and get our degree and be able to stand up here full time. Well, I don't know truly if that's true for the rest of my worship team members. I suspect not. Most of them have fairly full lives outside of UUCLV. But I'm not a frustrated minister because even though I grew up Catholic and therefore the call that I felt was never meant to be answered because I'm a girl, I found a way. I discovered Wicca, neo-paganism, when I was quite young. And when I found out that this was a way that I could be a religious leader, I have in a religion that respected me as a woman, I jumped in with all 4 feet. And I spent 7 years of my life following my avocation to learn how to be a really good Wiccan priestess. And, even though I'm not the person that you see leading the pagan stuff here, we've got some really good people here who do that. I've done my share of it. I know how to throw an impromptu circle. But there are things you learn, even though it's not divinity school, in learning to be a Wiccan priestess. One of the early things I figured out, I was probably maybe 2 years into my 7-year journey, is a basic understanding of church and how to do it. You see, believe it or not, the religious rituals, at least the ones I'm familiar with, which would be pagan, Catholic, Christian, Jewish, and UU, have a format. And they're the same, really, in basics. But the effect is different, whether you're part of the presentation or just a regular attendee. Attendees show up just before, or sometimes a teensy little bit after the scheduled beginning of the presentation. They are there to briefly step outside their daily lives and be with others who believe as they do, whatever those beliefs are. They follow along and even participate in the ritual as it builds to the big crescendo moment, the peak of the mystery, and then winds down to the end. Sometimes afterwards, there's an opportunity to socialize with your fellow believers, and even maybe the people who help to present the ritual. But once the service is done, they go back to their everyday lives until they come back for the next one, whenever that is, For us as UUs and a lot of Christian religions, it's Sunday. For Jews, it's Shabbat. It's usually celebrated on Saturday. Pagans, it's the holidays, and if you celebrate them, the moons. And if you are saying, but we're UUs, some of us don't even believe in God or the sacred. How could we do that? Well, entering sacred space is another way of saying entering into a worshipful frame of mind. We talk about that. We do this by lighting and extinguishing. We have a shorthand for it here in the UU. It's really quick and easy. But any UU event you've been to, whether it's here in the service or a meeting or the chalice circles if you participated in them. You participated in that shorthand. We light a chalice, not necessarily this one, sometimes a little teeny thing with a candle in it. And then we're in sacred space. And then at the end, we extinguish it. We leave sacred space. We have rituals. Our rituals are the things like the land acknowledgement, the offering, the of our hearts, the things that the worship associates read every week. Well, that's a ritual. We come in, we know that that's coming. Each and every one of those, we look for those, and if they're out of order, we get a little nervous because, oh, that's not how I expect it to be. And the big crescendo moment, well, for UUs, and I guess other Protestants, but my only real Protestant experience is with the Episcopalians, and they're kind of like Catholics in with their ritual and stuff. It's the sermon. The sermon is the big crescendo moment for UUs. And that means it's an understanding of why it's really important to have an insightful and erudite speaker as your minister. But I do a lot of work helping to put these on, not just when I'm up here, but I'm the backup signer-inner. Well, the greeter team, I kind of, because I'm here early. My husband's on the AV team, so I have to be here early. And I try to do other things every week when I'm here. And I know how much work it goes into putting together that hour. And when I started to write the sermon, it was to exhort people to come and give your time, because it's a lot of work. On the weeks that I'm the worship associate, and I know Reverend Gordon is in the pulpit, I probably put in 3 to 5 hours that week. I'm looking up readings, trying to think of songs to suggest, which is really hard for me because church music is just not where my musical heart is. You heard a piece of it at the start, where my musical heart is. For the worship associates who help out, we have a different speaker. They're putting in a lot more time. And then there's the AV team. I asked Geoff last night, how much time does he think the AV team put in? He says, well, it's a lot, and Keith does a lot more. AV team probably puts a day's worth of work. Yes, thank you. But there's more. There's all the work Irma does. And she puts in a lot of time every week getting that order of service printed, making sure that we have all the pieces that we need to put together the service, reminding us of the things that we might have forgotten, like, oh yeah, it's the Nevadans for the Common Good this month, or the name of the next service. Then there's the greeters. And oh God, Bobby, bless Bobby. She's done such a fantastic job making sure there's 2 people in that seat, even if one of them is her, to check us all in, say hello, make sure new people get to fill out the form and get the information about our service. And then there's hospitality. We have Suzanne, who helps set up and take down, but hospitality is a bit of a job. And Suzanne and Bob and Suzanne Kim all do their part. And now Mary has stepped up to take care of a part that is not something you'd think is necessary to do, but you really do. Keeping track of what we have on hand. Because, if we go to have coffee and cookies or whatever Suzanne puts out for us, and there's no plates, that's a little bit of a disaster. And then there's all the work that the worship leader, whether it's Reverend Gordon or whoever it is, puts in to present this to you. It's a lot of work. But I'm preaching to the choir here. Because you're all here, all of you that I can see, do your part. So I was kind of planning to exhort more. I'm going to cut it down and make it a little shorter, but I'm going to do it, and maybe other people who aren't here today will listen and hear it. Church, we're kind of special, as you use, and one of the ways we're special is that each of us is allowed to contribute. We're each allowed to have our say. If we want our worship experience to be different, we have the right to say it. I know growing up as a Catholic, I couldn't tell the priest what day it was. I had to dig to find out even what the topics were going to be, because unlike the Episcopalians who have the Book of Common Prayer where you can find out every little damn thing about what the ritual is supposed to be, Catholics don't give that out. We all hear things about where we think this community is letting us down. I hear there's another piece of the common ritual of UU churches that we don't do. We don't sing our kids out. We don't sing our kids out because right now we don't have an RE program, or at least not an official one. We do have an unofficial one, and they're not here today for me to hear me call them out, but Ariel and Rory, they have kids. It was important for them to do something for their kids. And while it's unofficial, and I sometimes wish it was scheduled a little different, they're doing something. Now, it's not my job to talk about having y'all give more money, because Hillary has taken on the stewardship drive, and you're going to be hearing from her. And I know it takes a lot of money. I'm going to give you one little example. I was thinking about it. One of the reasons we don't have an RE program is we don't have a professional RE director. And I know I'm vastly underestimating the salary, but you realize our membership count is right at 100. To pay the annual salary of an RE director, and this is a low-paid one who maybe isn't even full-time, would require each of us to pony up an extra $500 a year. I don't know about y'all, but I don't have any extra $500 a year to put in. But that's another good thing about my background, learning to be a Wiccan priestess, because you learn how to put on church on a shoestring. Like your congregations, most mainstream church congregations, we have this building. Most pagan congregations, building? We actually have a building that's ours, we can own it, or a piece of land that some member of the group has that they let us use on a regular basis? No. If you listen to a pagan ritual, the first large portion of it is actually claiming whatever space that we're using, is setting that space and claiming it, at least temporarily for the moment, as ours. So, we don't get by without a building. But you know what? Having a building is a really good thing. It's a little cold to be outside trying to put this together in a park. And God forbid trying to do it in June or July or August with the sun beating down. So having a building is a good thing. And then there's the fact that there's more to church than Sunday. I mean, and I, for one, am really bad about that. I don't get over here. I don't drive anymore. My eyes are not working as well that I feel safe behind the wheel. So that means I've got to get that one to drive me. He's my chauffeur, my husband, my everything. But he works. So he can't drive me whenever I want to go wherever I want. So I'm usually here on Sunday. But we expect church to bind up our wounds, to be there when we need comfort, We expect church as a place to celebrate our milestones. As UUs, we like to walk our talk, and we expect church to help us do that. We have the food bank that we do every third Saturday. And I'll admit, I've been here 3 years now, plus the several months we were here back in 2018. I haven't made it one Saturday. Now, my excuse is that after 40 years of office work, Saturday morning was my time to sleep in, and expecting me to be up at 6 in the morning on a Saturday ain't gonna happen. But we do all that, and we do it with volunteers. We do a lot of things with volunteers. We can do more with volunteers. So, I have a challenge for you. If you think, well, this church should do X, my challenge for you is think about how you could help bring about X, whatever that is. Now, I'm also going to ask you to do it through the channels. Just don't go and do it on your own, because that gets us in so many directions we don't want to go in. But that's the challenge, to be more. And, I worked on this, and it's New Year's Day. I don't know about the rest of you. Even though I didn't party, I stayed up to midnight and got up at 7. My body is saying, a nap would be really nice. So I ain't going to keep you long. Not very much longer at all. I really want to thank you for coming and for being here. I want to urge you to keep giving what you're giving. And just in case you're thinking, oh no, not another thing telling us we got to do more. I know, I sometimes get that feeling too. I'm going to say something. It's really important that you're here in those seats. Because I can tell you from experience, there is nothing worse than working real hard on a presentation or a ritual or a service and not having anybody in those seats to be looking at. So I really appreciate it. And my call to action is this. We're supposed to have one. That's supposed to be part of the ritual now. My call to action is to think of at least one way that you can offer your time and energy to help make the world a better place. Because as you use that deep down, that's what we want to do. We want to make the world a better place. And commit to actually do it. It would be wonderful if it's something to help here, but it doesn't have to be. Help any group or organization that grabs your heart and stirs your soul, but just commit to do it. Maybe that's a New Year's resolution. Begin as you intend to go on. We all have the capability of making the world better, and if we all do it, the world gets better. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you.